live in interesting times. On tonight's headlines. Nearly 400 people were killed when a powerful quake sent a tsunami barreling into the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. A powerful typhoon pummeled Japan's southern island of Okinawa, injuring several people. U.S. President Donald Trump orders a new FBI investigation into sexual assault allegations against his Supreme Court pick. And Facebook reveals that up to 50 million accounts were breached by hackers. Hello and welcome. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us. And now to the news. Nearly 400 people were killed when a powerful quake sent a tsunami barreling into the Indonesian island of Sulawesi, as hospitals are struggling to cope with hundreds of injured and rescuers scrambling to reach the stricken region. Take a look. Indonesia has been hit by a 2-meter tsunami, despite authorities lifting a tsunami alert in the wake of the huge 7.5 magnitude earthquake. The National Disaster Agency put the official death toll so far at 384, all of them in the tsunami-struck city of Palu. However, they warned the toll was likely to rise. In the city, home to around 350,000 people, partially covered bodies lay on the ground near the shore the day after the tsunami waves came ashore. The tsunami was triggered by the strong quake that brought down several buildings. It also sent locals fleeing their homes for higher ground as the churning wall of water crashed into Palu. The dramatic video, as shown earlier, footage filmed from the top floor of the parking ramp in Palu, nearly 80 kilometers from the quake's epicenter, showed the waves of water bringing down several buildings and inundating a large mosque. Now, the shallow 7.5 magnitude tremor was more powerful than the series of quakes that killed hundreds on the Indonesian island of Lombok in July and August. People living hundreds of kilometers from the epicenter reported feeling the massive shake hours after the smaller jolt killed at least one person in the same part of the Southeast Asian archipelago. The quake hit just off central Sulawesi at a depth of 10 kilometers just before 6 p.m. local time, according to the USGS. Such shallow quakes tend to be more destructive. The main airport in Palu, a city of 350,000, was shot after the tsunami struck and is expected to stay closed for at least 24 hours. Friday's tremor was centered 78 kilometers north of Palu, the capital of central Sulawesi province. It was felt in the far south of the island in its largest city, Makassar, and on the neighboring island of Kalimantan, Indonesia's portion of Borneo Island. The initial tremor, which was followed by a series of powerful aftershocks, struck as evening prayers were about to begin in the world's biggest Muslim-majority country on their holiest day of the week, when mosques are especially busy. Now, quakes of similar magnitude can cause great damage to poorly built or badly designed structures, including the toppling of chimneys, columns, and walls, according to the USGS. Going now to India, rains disrupted most of normal life there. Here's Pedro Almedina for the report.
Department has warned heavy to very heavy rain in isolated parts of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Schools were asked to remain closed in 8 districts of Himachal Pradesh: Kulu, Kinaur, Chamba, Kangra, Bilaspur, Sirmaur, Solan, Mandi, and Shimla till September 24th in the wake of heavy rain forecast. Over in Punjab, the government issued a red alert in the wake of heavy rain in the state and has asked district authorities to monitor. Chief Minister Singh also called a meeting of senior officers on Monday to find out ways to deal with flood-like situations. A spokesman of the Chief Minister office said in Chandigarh, according to PTI. Red alert has been issued in view of incessant rain in the state, he said. Punjab has been witnessing widespread rain for the last 2 days, prompting state authorities to review preparation. Reporting from India, this is Pedro Almedina III, and I am one with 25.
Meanwhile, a powerful typhoon pummeled Japan's southern island of Okinawa, injuring at least 17. Weather officials warned the storm would rip through the Japanese archipelago over the weekend. Jane Kinjo reports.
As early as Friday morning on September 28, all bases in Okinawa were on tropical cyclone condition of readiness 1, bracing for Super Typhoon Trami. Only key and mission essential personnel reported to work to prepare the bases for the incoming typhoon. It is exactly the opposite for off bases, where schools, offices, and businesses were open as usual.
As of 6:30 this morning, we went into Ticor 1 emergency. Local news reported sustained winds of 85 miles per hour and is expecting a maximum of 125 to 135 miles per hour as the super typhoon unleashes its wrath and fury all over Okinawa Island. Power outages have been reported and some areas are submerged in flood waters. Sea conditions throughout the island remains at west and east danger. Maximum significant wave height is forecasted at 43 feet. As of the moment, we are in the eye of the storm. Strong winds and torrential rain subsided, leaving only wreckage in its wake.
Reporting from Okinawa, Japan, this is Jane Kinjo for Eagle News International. I am one with 25.
U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a new FBI investigation into sexual assault allegations against his Supreme Court pick as the Senate delayed a vote on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to make way for the probe. Take a look. After a day of drama, political fireworks. Take a look.
Aye. Vote. Call the roll.
Mr. Hatch.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye.
Mr. Sass.
Aye.
Mr. Flake.
Aye.
Mr. Grego. Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy.
This is on the nominee.
Mrs. Feinstein.
On the nominee, no.
Mr. Leahy.
On the nominee, no.
Mr. Durbin. Mr. Whitehouse.
Okay, so the committee vote on Brett Kavanaugh, but with a huge caveat from swing vote Representative Senator Jeff Flake.
With regard to making sure that we do due diligence here. And I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote for up to but not more than 1 week in order to let the FBI continue to do an investigation limited in time and scope.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a new FBI investigation into the sexual assault allegations against his Supreme Court pick as the Senate delayed the vote on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to make way for this probe. Take a listen to President Trump.
Well, I'm going to let the Senate handle that. They'll make their decisions, and they've been doing a good job and very professional. I'm just hearing a little bit about it because I've been with the President of Chile, and we're talking about some very important subjects, but I'm sure it will all be very good. I guess the vote was a positive vote, but there seems to be a delay. I'll learn more about it as the day goes on. I thought her testimony was very compelling, and she looks like a very fine woman to me. Very fine woman. And I thought that Brett's testimony, likewise, was really something that I haven't seen before. It was incredible. It was an incredible moment, I think, in the history of our country.
In indelible in the...
After a dramatic day-long hearing at which a university professor accused Kavanaugh of pinning her down and assaulting her at a party in the 1980s, the Senate Judiciary Committee earlier Friday approved his nomination in a preliminary vote along party lines. The Kavanaugh nomination has turned into a political firestorm ahead of November congressional elections, in which Republicans will battle to keep control of Congress and is threatening to derail Trump's push to get a conservative-minded majority on the top court ahead of the vote. Republicans see Kavanaugh as pivotal to their gaining control of the 9-member Supreme Court bench. Trump nominated him to replace Anthony Kennedy, who for years was a swing vote between 4 conservative and 4 liberal justices. Many conservatives hope Kavanaugh's appointment leads to a reversal of the court's protection for women's abortion rights and for affirmative action programs supporting minorities in schools and jobs. With the stakes high, the Judiciary Committee's preliminary vote took place amid extraordinary tension. Kavanaugh supporters and opponents squared off furiously in hearing rooms, and protesters crowded the hallways of Congress. Take a listen.
Think about them. I have 2 children. I cannot imagine that for the next 50 years they will have to have someone in the Supreme Court who has been accused of violating a young girl. What are you doing, sir?
I was sexually assaulted and nobody believes me. I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter, that they should just stay quiet, because if they tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them. That's what happened to me, and that's what you're telling all women in America, that they don't matter. They should just keep it to themselves, because if they have told the truth, they're just going to help that man to power anyway. That's what you're telling all of these women. That's what you're telling me right now. Look at me when I'm talking to you. You're telling me that my assault doesn't matter, that what happened to me doesn't matter, and that you're going to let people who do these things into power. That you let people like that go into the highest court in the land and tell everyone what they can do to their bodies.
Do you have an answer, Senator?
Senator Clay, do you think that Brett Kavanaugh is telling the truth? Do you think that he's able to hold the pain of this country and repair it? That is the work of justice. The way that justice works is you recognize harm, you take responsibility for it, and then you begin to repair it. You're allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions, unwilling to hold the harm that he has done to one woman, actually 3 women, and repair it. You can respond. What do you think? Can respond? I understand, but tell me, I'm standing right here in front of you. What do you have? Do you think that he's telling the truth? No. Do you think that he's telling the truth to the country?
Respond to the complaints.
No, I need to go to the hearing. I just issued a statement.
You can send an email. You can't give an answer?
No.
We're asking you for an answer.
We've got a lot of questions here.
Do these women not deserve an answer?
You've heard a lot of the city.
All right, moving on now. Facebook revealed that up to 50 million accounts were breached by hackers, dealing a blow to the social network's effort to convince users to trust it with their data. The social network is investigating the extent of harm done when hackers exploited a trio of software flaws to steal access tokens, the equivalent of digital keys that enable people to automatically log back into the social network. The Facebook chief executive Mark Zuckerberg said engineers discovered the breach on Tuesday and patched it on Thursday night. As a precaution, Facebook is temporarily taking down the View As feature, described as a privacy tool to let users see how their profiles look to other people. The flaw could have let someone exploit the View As feature, which lets you view your own profile as it appears to another user or to the public as a way of evaluating your specific sharing settings. However, it appears that the feature inadvertently exposed Facebook security tokens when someone selected a profile as a desired view as target. Now, that would let someone gain access to the person's account. Facebook access tokens are the digital keys that allow mobile users to log into their accounts without having to retype their passwords. Facebook reset the 50 million breach accounts, meaning users will need to sign back in using passwords. In other news, Ebola has returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo and health officials think this epidemic may be even worse than previous ones. Now, due to rebels, local politics, and general distrust within the population, the World Health Organization says it fears it won't be able to access and aid the population. Already, the current epidemic has claimed 100 lives.
We are now extremely concerned that several factors may be coming together over the next weeks to months to create a potential perfect storm. A perfect storm of active conflict, limiting our ability to access civilians, distrust by segments of the community already traumatized by decades of conflict and of murder, driven by a fear of a terrifying disease, but also exploited and manipulated by local politicians prior to an election. And of course, a frightening high-threat pathogen that will exploit these community and political fault lines and not respect borders, whether they're provincial or international.
Salama says the fighting makes it harder for health officials to treat and prevent Ebola. In other places, superstitions and distrustful locals outright refuse treatment. It's not the only current crisis in the DRC. WHO says due to armed conflict, cholera, human trafficking, and other humanitarian crises are rampant in the country. It's not even this year's first Ebola outbreak. 33 people died of the infectious disease in July. In other news, the United States shut its consulate in the protest-hit southern Iraqi city of Basra, blaming indirect fire by Iran-backed forces and warning its rival of retaliation for any damage. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo ordered all but emergency staff to leave Basra, with consular duties to be taken over by the embassy in Baghdad. Basra has been rocked by weeks of demonstrations by Iraqis protesting unemployment and government inefficiency in the oil-rich south. Pompeo, who has made rolling back Iranian influence in the region a top priority, said the Iranian government and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's Corp Quds force are threatening U.S. personnel and facilities and blamed Iranian militias for indirect fire, which usually means rockets or artillery against the U.S. consulate. Ruled by Shiite clerics, Iran has a strong influence in Iraq, especially in the country's Shiite majority south. Iran's consulate itself was earlier burned down during the protests, although no one was injured and Tehran quickly opened a new mission. Iran's foreign ministry earlier called U.S. allegations of fomenting violence in Basra, quote, astonishing, provocative, and irresponsible. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. That you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Business News, this is Cesar Vallejos. Majority of Filipinos want the Duterte administration to immediately address rising prices of basic goods and services. According to the September 2018 Ulat ng Bayan of Pulse Asia said, 63% of the 1,800 respondents said controlling the rising costs of commodities is their top concern. There is a 12 percentage point rise in the proportion of Filipinos who consider inflation an urgent national concern from the June's 51%. In a briefing at the palace on Thursday, presidential spokesman Harry Roque assured the public that addressing inflation is the government's foremost priority. Half of Filipinos consider improving the pay of workers, which ranked second on the list of urgent national concerns that the administration of President Rodrigo Duterte should address immediately. The Asian Development Bank has cut its growth forecasts for the Philippines for the next 2 years and raised inflation projections for 2018 and 2019. In its outlook for 2018, ADB downgraded its 2018 GDP growth projection for the Philippines to 6.4%. From 6.8% previously, owing to the unexpected softening of first-half expansion to 6.3% following the 3-year low 6% growth in the second quarter. ADB blames lower agricultural output, lower net exports as imports surged, as well as higher inflation for the downgraded outlook. For 2019, the ADB also cut its growth forecast to 6.7%. from 6.9% previously. As for inflation, the ADB sees the rate of increase in prices of basic commodities hitting an average of 5% this year, up from previous forecast of 4%. Next year, inflation would ease to 4%, slightly higher than the ADB's previous projection of 3.9%. Other top concerns including reducing poverty 32%, creating jobs 30%, fighting graft and corruption in government 26%, and combating criminality at 23%. America's largest family-owned and operated Chinese food chain Panda Express is coming to the Philippines through Jollibee Foods Corporation. JFC announced that it had entered into a 50-50% joint venture with Panda Restaurant Group Incorporated to bring the brand to the local market. The partnership seeks to introduce to the local market American Chinese food, a globally influenced cuisine inspired by authentic Chinese culinary principles. In its initial phase, the partnership intends to focus on developing 5 stores in Metro Manila. Panda Restaurant Group is the world leader in Asian dining, with other brands such as Panda Inn and Hibachi-san in its portfolio. SM Prime Holdings has expanded its office portfolio with the launch of 2 developments inside the Mall of Asia complex in Pasay City. SM Prime said it unveiled its latest office building, the 3Com Center, and also topped off the 4 Ecom Center. The 2 new projects will add 114,000 square meters and 190,000 square meters of gross floor area to the company's fast-growing office building footprint, SM Prime President Jeffrey Lim said. Currently, SM Prime operates 10 key office buildings in different key areas in the country with a total gross floor area of almost 595,000 square meters. The Vietnam National Administration of Tourism conducted the Vietnam Tourism Roadshow at the AG New World Manila Bay Hotel last September 24. Once known as a war-torn country, Vietnam had 13 million international visitors last year. Will be hosting the 2019 ASEAN Forum in January 2019. Ambassador of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam to the Philippines, Lee Cuc Thuan, said they will also introduce to the people in the Philippines, the media, travel agents, and tour operators about the natural beauty of Vietnam.
I have seen that so far there is a tourism flows between Vietnam and the Philippines, and a lot of Vietnamese going over here to visit the Philippines, and so the number is bigger from the Philippine side going to visit Vietnam. The last year there were 134,000 Filipinos visiting Vietnam, and Vietnamese were 40,000 people visited the Philippines. Vietnamese want to know a lot about the Philippines, about the history of the Philippines, about the struggles of the hero Philippines. Vietnamese would like to explore, Filipinos' roots, Filipinos' way of life, and they want to learn the good signs of the Filipinos. Like Filipinos are very resilient, and I think this is the one that's Vietnamese can, learn from the Filipinos.
According to Deputy General Director Ngo Quai Chung of the Vietnam National Administration of Tourism, trade turnover between the two countries has reached more than $4 billion. Chung also mentioned that Vietnam ranked 6th in the 10 fastest growing tourism destinations in the world, and the World Travel Organization honored Vietnam as Asia's leading travel destination 2018. The Vietnam Tourism Roadshow was also highlighted by B2B meetings, cultural presentations, and tourism promotions. About 100 delegates graced the event, which comprised of travel agencies, airlines, travel associations, and embassy officials. President Donald Trump told the UN General Assembly that OPEC is ripping off the rest of the world by pushing oil prices higher. He has called on OPEC to tame oil prices by boosting output several times this year, even as his administration's sanctions on Iran push crude costs higher.
The United States stands ready to export our abundant, affordable supply of oil, clean coal, and natural gas. OPEC and OPEC nations are, as usual, ripping off the rest of the world, and I don't like it. Nobody should like it. We defend many of these nations for nothing. and then they take advantage of us by giving us high oil prices. Not good. We want them to stop raising prices. We want them to start lowering prices, and they must contribute substantially to military protection from now on. We are not going to put up with it, these horrible prices, much longer.
Rising oil prices have become a major headache for politicians around the world.
The coalition of roughly 24 exporters has been limiting its output since January 2017. They do this in order to end the punishing oil price downturn that bankrupted hundreds of American oil companies and heaped financial pressure on crude-producing nations. Trump blames that policy for pushing oil futures into a range between about $70 and $80 per barrel and keeping the national average gasoline price anchored near $3 a gallon. That's it for business news. This is Cesar Vallejos, and I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay with us.
Provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Health is a...
No relief in sight for South Carolina. Rivers continue to rise, prompting more flooding concerns after Hurricane Florence. Flooding in the aftermath of Hurricane Florence continued in the Carolinas nearly 2 weeks after the storm made landfall in North Carolina and inundated large parts of both states. The South Carolina Emergency Management Department warned residents to limit travel to Horry and Georgetown counties due to ongoing severe flooding as rivers remain swollen in the aftermath of the storm that came ashore September 14 as a Category 1 hurricane, dumping feet of rain in some parts of North Carolina. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster called the amount of rainfall and flooding caused by the slow-moving storm unprecedented. An additional storm-related death was reported meanwhile in North Carolina, where a spokeswoman for the State Emergency Operations Center said an 85-year-old man from New Hanover County died after he contracted an infection in a wound he suffered while cleaning up his property. More than 40 deaths were blamed on Florence and its aftermath, many of them occurring in North Carolina. A few days after Hurricane Florence ravaged the Carolinas, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, in cooperation with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, reached out to the victims. Heather Canlas reports.
Here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, about 50 miles from Wrightsville Beach, where Hurricane Florence made landfall, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, in cooperation with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, are distributing hundreds of packages of relief goods to the victims of Hurricane Florence.
Though the storm has passed, Hurricane Florence's record-breaking rainfall has transformed local highways into rivers. Flooding, storm debris, and power outages continue to impact local residents.
As I have traveled through many of the counties, it's heartbreaking to see some of the damage. And I think the reason that that it can hurt your heart so much is because you know that there are people for whom life will always be different now. If they suffered either hurricane damage, or in many cases in parts of North Carolina it was the flooding, it will take quite a long time for them to fully recover, if they ever fully recover. And so for some people we have to start to talk with them about what a new normal may be for them. Other folks, even here in this neighborhood near where the shelter is, they don't appear to have suffered major damage, and in fact it almost looks like they're going on with life as normal. And so there is kind of that dichotomy between folks who are going to face a long recovery and those who won't. I think there will almost be two types of disaster recovery that will unfold. There were people who had damage more from the hurricane, from high winds, and then we have a lot of people who are still being affected by the flooding. And that flooding damage will be a whole different type of recovery, and that recovery may take a very long time. We have 17 counties in North Carolina right now that have been approved for individual assistance. That will open up an array of disaster help for people who are affected. There are also a number of counties in South Carolina, and there are some counties that will get help for that community infrastructure separate from the individual assistance. So a large area. All of eastern North Carolina has been affected by Florence.
Well, we're pretty blessed. We didn't have any real damage to the house itself. We had some trees that were blown over, and parts of our fence were blown over, and a place, that swing set, that was damaged and we had to get rid of. But some of our neighbors weren't so lucky. They had their roofs torn up and damaged, water getting inside the house and ceilings caving in and everything. I mean, just 3 or 4 houses down the block on either side. Plus there's a lot of flooding, which kind of isolates this area when that happens, so there was very little food in the stores. They're starting to get restocked now, so it's starting to get a little bit better.
We're here to actually pass out care packages to help those who are in need, who lost power, lost some food, and hopefully get them something to help out as well. They're trying to recover from the hurricane. And I also wanted my children to also see that, you know, the church does so much to help those who are in need, not just those in church, but also our fellow men around the community also to give out and give what we can to help them.
The FYM Foundation and the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ were tasked by the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, to share the best that they can in order to assist and even provide relief to those who were affected by the recent floodings here in the Carolinas, especially here in Jacksonville and even Wilmington areas. We were mobilized by the church administration that we can give as quick as we can, the best that we can, not only by sharing material things like the care packages, but more so spiritual counselings and guidance, and also prayer for those who were affected by these recent calamities. This is the least that we can do, and especially our care and also concern for them. I know this is not a one-time effort, and this is not only found in one location only. In fact, even in different parts of the states. And if we go across the oceans, there are even relief efforts that were conducted by members all over the world, in Africa, in Asia, in some parts of Europe, and even in Australia, and even in Canada. We are so thankful because the community band together, mobilized by the effort to love one another as God our Lord loves us, together with His Son, our Lord Jesus Christ.
From Jacksonville, North Carolina, I am Heather Canlis, and I am 1 with 25.
Now, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, continues with its humanitarian mission in different parts of the world. In Toronto, Canada, through the Aid for Humanity program of the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, over 4,000 care packages were prepared for the homeless, refugees, new immigrants, as well as clients at local shelters. Sabir Mufti reports.
The exhibition place in Toronto, Canada, is the biggest entertainment site and prime destinations for trade shows, sporting events, concerts, and more. Although Toronto is considered to have the best entertainment center and business district, some of its poverty-stricken streets tell a different story. Here today, ready to lend a helping hand, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, is holding its International Aid for Humanity.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ, led by Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, conducts its International Aid for Humanity to fight against poverty in cooperation with its humanitarian arm, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation.
We have about 4,000 care packages with winter articles, some food that we thought that would be very helpful to that kind of situation. And once we finish helping the people who were able to come, we're going to take the leftover bags and we're going to go through the city, we're going to go through the town, and we're going to find these people and we're going to just hand it to them as a gesture of loving our fellow men.
This charitable event will benefit new immigrants, refugees, people living with disabilities, the elderly, men and women, youth communities, and those who are afflicted by economic challenges.
Check donations were handed out by Brother Glacerio Santos, the Iglesia Ni Cristo's internal auditor, to all the shelters who participated in this event.
Yeah, thank you so much for your generous donation to the neighborhood organization. We really appreciate the help to the community. The community is very grateful for your support and really giving back to those in need. It's a very powerful event, and to invite everyone together, I think this is very powerful.
This is something big, really, you know. When you come here and just like you see this kind of crowd and you see the people with this high of feeling here, it means a lot to us. It is a lesson for all of us, you know. just like to attend the Church of Christ, something really special and global, just like globally, to see just like how they organize this event and how they put all the effort to show us just like all of us, we can just like come together and also support, just like whenever we are possible, we can make a difference. And always good to support the people who are in need, First of all, I would like to thank them very much, for just coming today and organizing such an event like this.
Having them approach us and talk to us about the event and being willing to put together kits that encompass so many things that people on the streets need, especially in the cold months of winter, is a fantastic thing, such as socks, mittens, toques, all those kinds of things are things that really are needed in order to help them survive and manage through the winter if they can't find shelter. So that was fantastic to be able to get that invitation to come and know that there's support from the community to be able to help support those in need at that time.
I'm telling you, I am so amazed. Like, I did not expect this. I thought, oh, we're just coming down. Shadi said to come down, you'll get something. And I'm thinking, okay. I didn't really want to come. But when I came, I was really, really touched. And to see how the church is reaching out to the community, I am very much impressed.
I think it's a really great cause. I think it's a very community-driven initiative, and we're happy to be receiving this from them. So we're really grateful.
Church members gave away winter accessories, basic necessities, hygiene kits, and food items for the recipients.
Here in Toronto, there are so many people who are suffering from poverty, and also a significant number of people who are homeless. So approximately here in Toronto, they have about 7,000 bed spaces for people who are without emergency shelter. And usually between 90 to 95% of those bed spaces are being taken up each and every day. So when it comes to this activity, even in a small way, we are reaching out to those people, especially those who are homeless and those perhaps who have just entered into Canada, but they don't have their basic needs. We're going to help them in one way or another so that they in turn may have some kind of aid or assistance when it comes to their immediate necessities. We've also reached out to certain shelters and organizations. They'll be bringing members of their organization to this activity so that they could partake of what the Church of Christ has prepared for them today. So yes, we're looking forward to it. It's just another chapter in the social civic activities of the Iglesia ni Cristo. We do these kinds of activities all throughout the world. So again, this is just another chapter in the good deeds of the church, which of course are based on the teachings of the Bible.
We're here right now here at the Queen Elizabeth building here in downtown Toronto. Currently we have our brethren, some of the organizers that are right now just gathering up, preparing the goods. Now these goods are winter care packages that have been also donated by our brethren inside the Church of Christ from different local congregations throughout the GTA. We even have our brethren who helped as far as Ottawa, Windsor, Montreal, and Beaconsfield.
Here, this is a really huge event to thank the sponsors, the shelters, like the refugee centers and shelters. This is a great opportunity for us, the FYM Foundation, to appreciate their efforts, their hard work, and reaching out to the new immigrants too.
Reporting from the Aid to Humanity event here in Toronto, Canada, I am Sabir Mufti, 1 with 25.
The Iglesia ni Cristo recently conducted an international aid to humanity in Long Island City in New York, particularly for the tenants of Queensbridge houses, the largest public housing development in North America. The INC, upon the directive of the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, gave more than 1,200 Goodwill bags containing food and other items of immediate need to the residents. Joe and Blanca Soriano, EBC, New York, reports.
Queensbridge Houses in New York is the largest public housing development in North America. It reached notoriety in rap and hip-hop music due to past residents like Nas and Mobb Deep. The complex opened in 1939 and now houses over 8,000 residents.
I was born and raised in Queensbridge housing. It was predominantly Italian, Polish, Greek. I remember as a little girl playing with a diverse group of people that lived in the building. As time moved on, more African Americans moved in, Hispanics, but it was always a family unity here in Queensbridge. What I found out from going to meetings throughout the citywide, you have seniors who are on a fixed income, have worked all their lives, retired, but they're on a budget. It's not enough. After you pay your rent, you gotta buy toiletries and things of that nature. You might have a senior that might eat once or twice a day.
As of 2017, 1 in 14 New York City residents live in public housing throughout the 5 boroughs. Several organizations have helped over the years, but today, the Iglesia Ni Cristo is providing aid to humanity by giving care packages to residents. In cooperation with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo provided over 1,000 parcels of non-perishable food and toiletries, like shampoo, toothbrushes, and toothpaste to the residents. Residents thanked the Iglesia Ni Cristo for their generosity.
First of all, I wasn't shocked because you guys were with us on our family day, our annual family day, and you guys came out like in droves, and you were wonderful. So when RJ and Minister Jojo proposed to me that you wanted to do this event today, I was like, hoorah! Thank you, Jesus, because we gotta come together and do things together.
I thank God for y'all, for y'all like family to us, because we all families.
It just feels good to see everybody come out, and you guys, we need this. We need this. We need for everybody to come out more and more, though. You brought out a lot of people today, you know. Thank you.
This is another example of how the Iglesia Ni Cristo's Aid to Humanity program is impacting local communities around the globe. Reporting from Queensbridge in New York, this is Joanne Blanco Soriano, 1 with 25.
The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. welcome back. Uppercut, left hook, jabs. It's all about different power, punches, defense, and skill. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's boxing. It's been a long male-dominated sport, but nowadays, women are taking an interest to train and compete. Our EBC correspondent, Abigail Dumlao, reports.
When we think of boxing, we think of male athletes like Manny Pacquiao, Mike Tyson, and Muhammad Ali. However, in modern times, more women are starting to put on their boxing gloves to improve their health. Here at Rock Boxing and Fitness Center, we speak to several women on what it means for them to jump into the ring. Signing up for boxing classes here in Rock Boxing will not only be about punching the heavy bag, but they will also put you through many exercises that are needed to condition the body of a boxer, including jump rope, kettlebell, paddle rope, tire fitness hammer, and many more activities that vary every day.
I probably started doing boxing like 2-3 years ago. I do Taekwondo originally. I compete for Taekwondo nationally, internationally. I started boxing just to get in better shape and to help me with my endurance for Taekwondo. And I just really enjoyed the feeling of being in a ring and punching or kicking people. I'm here all the time. I'm in here 20 hours a week. I'm just trying to work as hard as I can, and there's nothing that you can't do if you work hard enough.
Got into boxing a few years ago, basically just as a good workout, and that was really it. I wanted to try something new. I've definitely gotten a lot stronger, and I think it helps a lot with confidence as well, and it's a great place to meet a lot of people too. My advice to other boxers, good question. I guess I would just say to anyone new to the gym to just keep trying it out and give it a chance, because it's an awesome workout, and it seems very hard at first, and it never gets much easier, but it gets a little bit easier, so yeah.
You're going from here and just turning that close. If you won't open up and your whole body's open for a punch. So if you go to, and then you rotate that forward, how does that pop, 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 pop. And when you turn your left foot, you're turning your left foot. So dig. It's not doing this. You gotta come down with it and up with it.
I started boxing when I was 15 years old. Boxing was a great form of conditioning. In between my basketball and lacrosse in high school, it fit well into what I was doing, stamina-wise and breathing and moving around. So I think just seeing it on TV and seeing how much hard work goes into it really got me into it. So I've had 4 amateur fights. I lost my last fight, so the first 3 fights were wins. My first actual fight was actually a knockout. I knocked her out in 45 seconds, which is crazy. As a female, it was very hard to get fights because you would have to show up hoping there would be another girl there. And most of the time, they would not be the same weight class. So I would weigh in with a book bag on my shoulder and jeans on just to weigh up to these girls because they were a lot heavier than me. Never give up, I think, is for any sport. It doesn't need to be boxing because I had to never give up into what I wanted to do. Being a female athlete and a boxer was very hard. People shut you down and told you couldn't do it. So no matter what anyone says to you, how you feel, just know that at the end, it's all worth it.
Although boxing continues to be a male-dominated sport, these women continue to prove that hard work and never giving up can lead to success in anything you do. From Rochester, New York, I'm Abigail Dumlao, and I'm 1 for 25.
Thank you, Abby, and that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Eagle News International, I'm Alma Angeles, always 1 with 25. Good night.